This is Modern Photo Solutions, helping you find modern solutions for life's photographic journey. Taking you from photo overwhelm to photo fabulous in just a few taps. Your story matters. It's time to start telling it. Hey everyone, welcome to Modern Photo Solutions. I'm Steph Clay and I am here today with Chari Pack from Persnickety Prints. Hi Chari.
Hi Steph. Hi everyone listening. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm so excited to talk to you again today because you've been busy, not only busy with your schedule, but you've been busy documenting too, which is so incredible to see. I keep seeing little snippets on Instagram of the albums that you're creating because you've been doing lots of traveling.
Well, yeah, it's funny, Steph. I think I met you, 7 years ago or so. And sadly, I think our kids actually do grow up. So the things that I was scrapbooking and documenting, prior, 10 years ago were, firsts, like first day of junior high and now I have 2 kids in high school, and it's crazy how fast time flies.
It's true.
So, not that they don't love photos of themselves, but they're just not around as much. And let's be honest, I haven't traveled. The first time I really went anywhere besides, the maybe surrounding states of Utah and Mexico was when I was 39, 40. So the last 3 or 4 years, which is great. But I think we change over time, right? So we are documenting our life as we go. And luckily, I've been able to do a little bit of traveling lately. And the great thing about technology and phones, as you know, and hopefully all of your readers have learned from you, is that we can do so much on our phones, right? So, I still create our everyday family scrapbook or album for what we have. But then as I've traveled, I create a travel album for every trip that's worthy of it, I guess.
Yes. Let's talk about this for 1 second. I love documenting travel. It's my very favorite thing in the world to document, and it has been for a long time. And I think one of those reasons is because studies show that reliving happy times makes us happy. And so
yes. Exactly.
Why wouldn't you want to relive it? Because you get to relive it while you're creating the album, and then every time you look at it too.
Well, and the funny thing is, Steph, is I realized this when we travel too. It's not like, there's always a first time for everything. And I've had so many people come to me after and say, "Hey, I saw that you went to Cuba. How do you do this? Or where did you stay?" And how often do you remember all these things, in 3 or 4 years? And so with travel albums, it's almost like it's my own document, my own journey. And I love using pocket albums because I can put in tangible things or receipts and currency and money and itineraries and things, because then I can just open up that album and go, "Oh yeah, we stayed right here." And if I go back in 10 years, sometimes, and I'm not going to tell you where, but I have Persnickety Prints stickers. Mm-hmm. And wherever I go in the world, I put stickers.
Oh, fun.
Somewhere. And so someday I'll go back. But, we pay a lot of money to travel, and we put a lot of time and energy and planning ahead. And then when we're there, we're just trying to soak it all in. I'm just like a little kid in a candy store, taking pictures and running around. And then all of a sudden it's over. And so reliving that is definitely one of my favorite things. But also just the fact that we put so much into that time, why not document it so that we can remember it forever?
Yeah, I agree. And I have also, just like you mentioned, used those books and everything that I've documented later on as I'm planning another trip to that location to, just like you said, I don't remember always exactly where we stayed or that one little restaurant that we ate at that we loved so much. What was its name? That kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So that we can, and even budgeting, because a lot of times I'll include receipts or details about how much money we spent on different things. And so being able to budget the next time we go, then it's all right there. And I know, which it seems kind of crazy, but I think down the road, I think it'll be fun to look back and be like, yeah, this is how much we spent on that vacation.
Oh, yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Like when I made $3.80 working at Dairy Queen.
Yes.
Like I love telling people I made $3.80 an hour, but I don't have anything to show. I'm not lying, I promise. But yeah, exactly. Like we don't realize how fast time is. Maybe we do going and documenting every day is great, but travel to me is how I learn. Like you can show me school books all day long and talk about history, but actually being there and experiencing it is the way that I just soak it in.
Yeah. It's amazing.
So
tell me some of the ways that how many different albums have you done this summer?
Well,
or I guess maybe this recent time period.
So I'm
Let's do
looking
that.
at my wall right now, and I probably have about 8 travel albums. But each of them are full of, if I go to a weekend in Moab or something, I'll usually use I have just a generic album, like a Heidi Swap, the storyline that I'll just put fun things in. But for the real big trips, we just got back from Peru, and I took my 2 children. I have 3 children, but the 16-year-old refused to go. I know. And so, right? He'll regret that.
It. I'm sure he will.
And I'll have my travel album to remind him.
Yes.
But with the trip that we just went on in Peru, I mean, we were in places that there's not a lot of people that speak English where we were. And it was a guided trip where we had a group that went, like a tour guide. And so I actually grabbed business cards from a couple of the travel guides that our tour used to do Machu Picchu and to do some other things, because if I ever go back to Peru on my own, there's no way I could do it without one of these guides, because I just don't speak Spanish that fluently. And so those are things that, I can try to throw it in my phone or remember, but I'm going to lose it. And so I put it in my travel album. And I've stuck with the 6x8 size, just because that's what I started with, but I feel like I can fit everything in that size. So I have a shelf of my travels with the different 6x8 albums, and I like to try different companies. And Persnickety, we use all kinds of different pocket albums and pocket styled elements in different companies and different designers. It's fun to try different ones and just find what works best for you.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that part of the logistical part of that. You print 6x8 at Persnickety.
We print any size, and we print every pocket size that's out there.
Okay, perfect. And how much is a 6x8 print?
99 cents.
Okay. And we can upload it directly on our phones, even the completed pages on our phones, because you have this really slick new website that's super mobile friendly, and you can access it from any device. And I've used it to upload photos and pages and stuff, and it's really easy.
Yeah, don't use the app for sure. I mean, we have an app out there too, but and we're continually building on that. So you can actually create collage, like a 6x8 collage on your phone as well. But also the cool thing is say you have pictures on your phone, but then you also have some on your computer, and you're like, how do I get all these? You can start a collage or a memory page on your phone on our website, and then save it, and then go back and log into any computer, say you're at your mom's house, or you need to add pictures that she has, and log in, and then upload those pictures and add them to that same layout.
Cool.
Right there.
Very cool. But it's also integrated with about every cloud storage option out there. I mean, everything, even Google Photos, I think. I need to go look at that. We integrate with every cloud, and if it's not on there, then we can definitely work on opening the API for that. Yeah, definitely. Cloud storage is important, and backing up our pictures is even more important, but printing is even more important. I agree.
Just because you can ruin, I mean, we can get off on this topic too, but we could talk about lots of things stuff.
I know we can.
But you understand, you're like my tech guru, you get it. And you can ruin or corrupt, I guess, a digital file easier than you can a print. And so that's where I'm really passionate about trying to teach people. I see these little trends happening. Like a couple months ago, I helped a family with a funeral, because funerals are unexpected. People have pictures everywhere. They start panicking. They don't have time to throw things together. And they really just gave me their Facebook page, and they said, here, this is where all of our photos are. And they had them locked in Facebook albums that were private, but they used Facebook as storage. Oh. And I'm like, oh boy, this. And I tried to educate them. And of course they're in mourning and they don't want to hear all the things that they did wrong, but please don't use Facebook as storage or Instagram. It's just, they compress everything. And when you want to print something out, you're not going to be able to print anything bigger than a little 4x4 or 4x6.
Yeah, let's talk about, since you said compression, I know people are going to be like, what? Google Photos compresses. Let's talk about that real quick.
and I need to use Steph. The thing, Google Photos awesome, but because I've already started with Dropbox, yes. I'm just still on there. So what does it say when it says compression?
Because, and you and I, we talked about this a long time ago, over a year ago, I think. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. But with the compression, they're compressing megapixels. So it's not taking out pixels from what you explained to me. They're taking anything that's over 16 megapixels. So if it was taken with this, a 20 megapixel camera, it will compress it down to 16 megapixels.
Okay.
And I remember when we talked about this before, because I wanted to test it, and you said we can test it if you want, but I really don't think you're going to see any difference at all in the print quality because of the way Google is compressing it. It's just the megapixels.
Right. And the thing that's funny is there's kind of a good safe zone with pixels. People think that if they boost up pixels or they save something as a TIFF that's, a 6,000 by 6,000 pixel TIFF, that the bigger the better. Well, yeah, the bigger the better, definitely, but bigger after a certain amount isn't better. So
right.
It just takes up more space. You can't load things as quickly. And actually on our end, when we print, our machines have a hard time printing anything over 20 megabytes. So we actually then have to go in and manually adjust it so that we can print it. But something that big is like billboard size. So we really don't need to be too big, but we want to be in the good, 16 by 20 is probably the best size, I would say, to store. And we can get into this, to store, your digital photo. 16 inches by 20 inch possible print, which means you could. Sorry, I'm getting way too technical.
I know, we're getting
people. So
I'm sure
probably I would just say
there's a lot of people listening that are right there with us, but then there are some that are like
3,600 pixels. To 4,200 is probably just great to store, and that's straight out of camera too, from your phones.
Yes. And if people are wondering, a great way, an easy way to check the resolution is just with the file if the file is on your computer, to just click on it. And then when it opens up, you don't even have to open it up, but it does a little preview, how they do with JPEGs, on Macs and and on PCs. It'll show the image size right there. Also, if your photo is stored in Google Photos, you can tap on the photo, pull it up, and then tap on the little eye, and it will show you those dimensions as well. But definitely a sweet spot. And people tend to think that the more megapixels the camera has, the better their photos are going to be, but that's not necessarily true.
Nope, not at all.
And
go ahead.
Sorry, most smartphones don't have more megapixels than 16. Most smartphone cameras don't. iOS devices do not. They are not. I think they're like 12. So any images taken with an iOS device would not be compressed at all in Google Photos.
Yeah. Except that front-facing selfie side, that one's smaller.
Yeah, that's true.
Also, while we're talking about this, storing our digital photos is really important. Storing the correct digital photos is really important, and not using Facebook or Instagram for doing that.
Yes.
But also, please don't email pictures to each other. It's so much better to use a cloud and then send links or download and upload. People don't like downloading and uploading. It's too hard, too confusing. But the minute you email a photo to somebody, like 90% of the time, it's going to be compressed if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. So also, on the funeral thing, I wanted to mention that I did have somebody that messaged me or posted a message in our Facebook group, I think, saying that they had a funeral and they were able to, since all of the photos were in Google Photos, they were just able to tap that person's image and have automatically a whole lifetime of photos of that person that they were just able to easily download.
Awesome. Yes, exactly. And so the clouds are getting smarter. We can do facial recognition and all of those things. So yeah, Google Photos, use it. Like, I don't know what else what else are we using? Are we using computer or hard drives or?
I always encourage people to not use hard drives because they crash, and it's just so sad when that happens. So I love cloud, and I tell people that photos need to be in 3 places, 3 different locations, and at least 2 of them should be different cloud locations. That's what I preach.
And then one thing about that is so with this very same funeral, they wanted a big enlargement of him, they needed one for the obituary, and then they wanted one to stand on an easel at the viewing. The only picture I could get that was high enough resolution was one that they actually had a printed photo, and then I scanned it, high-res scan at 1200 DPI, and we were able to print huge, 30 by 40 size picture. And so the printed photos are going to last longer than a digital corrupted photo, or you're safer, I guess. You're more safe. Safer is not a word. Yes. With a printed photo, or unless you know what you're doing with digital files, and hopefully we can read a JPEG in 20 years. That's why print your photos, even just one of your favorites of that year, print one, but just print something.
Yeah. Yeah. Really good advice. Back to vacation albums.
Stop. I know we could just talk forever. Sorry.
No, it's good.
So, before, and this kind of just started evolving. I would go on these little trips, and for those of you that don't know, I was married for 18 years, and then life happens and things change, and all of a sudden my husband decided that he didn't want to be married anymore, and so I found myself in a place where I was scared and I didn't know what was happening. And so now I'm a single mom. And instead of, it was really, really hard about 3 years ago. This all happened. And the hardest thing, Steph, is, I'm a scrapbooker. I document. And so I really took hold of like one little word, and I tried really hard to document the hard times too, because I didn't know at the time that I'd ever feel better.
Right.
It was one of those times when you just can't see the light.
Yeah, for sure.
But look back on those, you can now see how far you've come. And even though documenting as a single mom is a little bit different than calling it, family, my kids think that we don't have a family anymore, and it's really hard. And it's sometimes hard to go back and look at previous pictures, but I'm like, that's our story, and I can't go and delete the first chapters. It's part of who we are. And so we just keep going forward. But as I was going through this change, I thought I did a lot of soul searching and a lot of me time, and I would actually travel alone so that I could think, but it was better than being home alone. So I would go out and just kind of explore. And this is where I found a lot of growth. And so these travel albums to me are very, they're really inspiring, and they bring back a lot of feelings. But rather than kind of playing victim of being a single mom, I've just realized, what? I just need to do the best I can, and to make the best of every situation. And so, to be honest, that's how I've been able to travel more, because how many of us that have small children and are married can ever get away with our spouse without getting a babysitter? And, it's hard. And so I'm actually pretty fortunate that I can go places and do things because now the kids, when they go with their dad, I have time.
One of the ways that you're choosing to see a positive thing,
and
make it a good situation. That's so inspiring, Chari. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't want women to feel like, oh, well, you're lucky. How lucky are you? You get to go to Cuba and do all these great things. And I'm like, yeah, it's really because I had a girlfriend that invited me, and I don't have my kids half 50% of the time. So it's kind of like a built-in babysitter, and I am lucky, but there's also some hard that comes along
Exactly. And which it is with everyone in every situation in life, but it's easy to only look at through rose-colored glasses and see, oh, Chari's got this great life, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It comes with a lot of trials and struggles,
Yes.
but I just choose to make the best of it. And so with these little travel albums, it's kind of nice because I love to learn, and I love just to see new things. And it's just been really educational and really inspiring for me from personal growth, just to go out and experience other cultures, because we're pretty spoiled here in the US and it's a good reminder. So back to the traveling. As I started traveling, I would think in my mind, prior to going, how am I going to document this? So there's a little bit of planning prior, and I always know that I'm going to do a 6x8 album. But on some journeys, I would use just my phone. And on some travels, I would use, like this Peru trip, I took my DSLR. But usually I'm just using my phone. And so I'll kind of, prior to leaving, I'll kind of think, okay, what's my title page and what am I going to do? And I'll take a picture of my luggage, or as I'm packing, and this is this trip. And then I'll know in my mind I usually order the album and the pockets before I leave. So then I know, okay, I'm going to use all landscape 4x6 and some 3x4 portrait, and then the rest are 6x8. So I'll know that in advance before I go.
So do you do for one album, say for your Cuba, did you do all one size for that?
No, I'll mix it up. Okay. And pockets, here's the thing about pockets. I love them for certain things, but I dislike having to change my composition. Yeah. Like a landscape 4x6 has to go here, and having to kind of figure that out. That's too time consuming for me. Agree. I like to just plop them in and be done. So what I do though, and this is the greatest thing, is when you travel, or for all of you listening, think of when you were able to go on a vacation. You're taking like 2 or 3 weeks to even plan on that vacation. You're canceling appointments. And then while you're gone, you're trying to relax and have fun and enjoy it, which we do. But let's be honest, when we get home from any vacation, everything's piled up. You've got like mail, piled up, and you have emails, and you have. So what I do is, when I leave on a trip, because I have in my mind thought, okay, I'm doing this and this and this in my album. When I'm on the plane or on a bus or on a train, there's a lot of downtime in travel. That's when I'm creating my layouts or my pages and documenting and journaling on the go while I'm there, because I know when I get home, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And when you're making your pages, are you making 6x8 collages and then cutting them apart, or are you doing the actual, what are you doing?
That's a good question. So with the Persnickety website, you have to have Wi-Fi. So like in a train or a plane or something that you don't have Wi-Fi, you're unable to do that. So when I'm stuck without Wi-Fi, I will pull up my pick frame app, or like the Rana Designs app, or an app that works without Wi-Fi, and I'll create a collage and then in a folder in my phone, I'll drop in my 6x8 collage, or even a 4x6 collage that I'll create. And, or in the Rana Designs app or another design app, I'll create like a text print. So like a 4x6 that says Cuba with the dates and some cute design maybe over a picture or something. And I'll start doing like the design elements or the journaling parts. And then when I get home, I'll either have full 6x8 prints ready to print, or full 4x6 prints ready to print. In fact, when I'm with the Persnickety site, you can just, from the hotel, it was crazy. In Peru, from the hotel, I'm uploading pictures and ordering prints that when I got home, I just picked up and stuck in my albums, and I was done.
That is so awesome.
Yeah. And some people are like, well, enjoy your vacation while you're there. And I do. But when my kids, when you're on the plane and you can only watch so many movies on that plane, an 8-hour flight, I take a couple hours and I actually just journal everything and document it, and I'm done.
That's good. And see, I don't sleep as much as the other members in my family do, but if I am up and moving around in a hotel room, that's going to be a problem. And so that's when I do a lot of my documenting, is when I'm waiting for everybody else to wake up, at 5 a.m, and I'm laying awake. I make it productive and get some documenting done.
Yeah. And it's so fun to actually do it in the moment. So with my kids too, with this last trip to Peru, I took journaling cards, just blank 3x4 cards, just cardstock. And I had them write in the plane. And I'm working on a blog post for this, their top 3 moments. And, I had some of the kids in the orphanage that we worked at, write us some little notes with their name, if their handwriting. And so those kind of things to me are just little treasures. And I love handwritten things, because when we look back, it means so much more when I see something that I wrote when I was 10 rather than something my mom typed up for me in a book.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my between some people like bound books. So we might have people listening going, well, what about like just having a bound travel album? Pros and cons of that. I like silver halide printing for one, which is no ink archival darkroom printing is what we specialize in. And you
can tell the difference with that because it looks like a photo. It doesn't look like paper. It doesn't feel like paper, right?
Yep. And they're just archival. Yeah. I mean, that's even at home printing. I have a great loyal customer who actually started printing a little bit at home, and you would know her. I won't say any names, but she moved to Arizona, Steph, and her pictures all started yellowing on the outsides.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Because of the humidity change. And then, but it was only the ones that the persnickety ones were fine.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
The persnickety ones were, because we just don't use ink and paper. It doesn't breathe.
Yeah.
But books do. So books, and depending on the book, I mean, because think 50 years ago, people weren't making photo albums we were using film and nothing was digital. So we still have those pictures. And so it really does scare me a little bit that we're kind of in a digital dark age. And that's why I love what you do with Modern Photo Solutions, is helping people preserve their memories. Depending on the photo album, if it's paper, it's not going to last as long as an actual archival photo. And there are companies I like, Adorama.
Yeah.
But they're expensive.
Yes.
For a silver halide bound book. Because they're still using silver halide printing. But I like the tangibles.
Well, I love these 6x8 albums that you're doing because they are so fun. And I have you sent me photos, and I will post these in the show notes at modernphotosolutions.com if you want to head there as you're listening or after you're done and see these. And I'll also post them on social media. But because you're including money and ticket stubs and really cool things, especially when you're doing all of this international travel, that these physical, like you said, you call them tangibles, which is the perfect word for it. I love that you're including all of this stuff.
Yeah, it's fun to go back and look at and keep and collect. It's like a souvenir. It's like my personal souvenir from the trip. My family likes to come over, my parents, and go, okay, let's see what you just did. And so I'll pull out my album and show them everything. And to them, it's kind of like being there. With the tangible and the notes too, like these beautiful little children were writing little coloring pages. They don't speak very good English. And so to give us something, they would make the draw for us and give my boys these little pictures that they drew. And I want to keep those. But I think of looking back, like if you saw something your grandmother wrote and it's her handwriting on the actual piece of paper, that's going to be a lot more emotional for you than a typed up book. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree.
Here's what grandma said, and it's just in a quote in like a serif font and whatever. Or like an Abraham Lincoln, if you had the actual, letter that he wrote, the physical letter, that's going to mean a lot more to you than a picture of it in a book.
Yeah, I have a birthday card from my grandpa. I was really close to one set of grandparents, and especially it was my mom's parents, and then my mom's dad. I was very close with him, and I have a birthday card that was written by him, and I pulled it out and showed it to my mom. She said that's the only thing I ever remember seeing him write, ever.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I have goosebumps.
I know. And that's like, I feel like it's a part of him. more than I mean, if just like you said, if it was a typed something, but where I can see his handwriting and what it looked like, I feel like that's a part of my grandpa. So it's more like a living and breathing thing than it is just the print. So I agree. It's important to capture that stuff.
So in all of my memory keeping, I really like the pocket system for that, even though I don't love having to worry about directions and stuff. But I really do use a lot of just 12 by 12 pockets still.
Yeah.
So one thing I do with travel is I'll create the 6 by 8. And this last time, well, I won't get into all the details, but I'll duplicate some things. So I'll create the 6 by 8 album for myself, and then in our family album, I will use the same pictures that I've uploaded to Persnickety, and I can drag and drop and make a 12 by 12 memory page as well.
I can see that in your photos. It looks like you've done, and they're 4 by 4 photos, right? On the 12 by 12 collages, they're all square photos.
Yeah, that's the template that I chose for this.
And I remember you telling me, and I think this is a great piece of advice, and that's why I'm going back to this, is because I remember when the pocket size first came out, talking to you about this, and you said, I'm just going to do 4 by 4 for everything because it's easy. I don't have to worry about which orientation it's going to fit. And I think that's great advice. If it's hard for you to figure out and put those puzzles together, just go square.
Yeah, square is so much easier. But the hard thing too is, like, as a photographer, sometimes your composition you need to have a certain way, and so that kind of messes things up. But just to keep things simple, even with gallery walls, people are like, "Well, I'm like, just do a square gallery wall. It's so much easier. You just stick them all up." But just throwing them up all square. But in our memory page software, you can customize everything and drag and drop and move the photo placeholders and add text over the top. And so it makes it really fun way to document, and it's all free.
Yeah.
And speaking of storage, we store everything for you for free too. All your photos, high res.
Yeah. You know what? Okay. Confession time. I've had some hard drive failures, and my listeners know about this. I've talked about it a lot, and that's why I've gone to the cloud, is because a little while ago, I tend to always lose hard drives. They die at the same time. And a while ago, I lost 2 external hard drives and the internal on my computer within just months of each other.
Oh no.
And there were some photos that I couldn't find anywhere as I was uploading everything to Google Photos, and I thought for sure that they were gone for good. But then I remembered that I had printed some with you. So I logged into my website or into my account, and they're there.
Yay!
Yes.
Did you know you can download them?
Yes, I do know that I can download them, but I don't know how. So tell us how we download them.
Well, just when you look in your album, you'll see, and I'll have to pull it up, like a little magnifying glass. So you just click on that, so it pops it up big. And then it'll just say download on the left.
Okay. Yay.
So it's just when you're viewing your albums, and it's a little thumbnail. Kind of hover over it with your mouse, and you'll see a little magnifying, and then click that.
And I think that's where I got stumped, because I thought I could just go in and like select all of them and then download them. But
yeah, no, you have to do it one at a time. Yeah, unfortunately.
Because you're not meant to be cloud storage, but it works out great for those of us who need it.
Yep. On any computer, you can just go back and re-download them.
Yeah. Which I'm so grateful
for. Well, good.
For.
I'm glad that was there for you. Awesome.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
but so photos are important. I love them, and I love travel, and the 6 by 8 size just works. Who knows? Maybe it'll change later. But I've used this last Peru trip. I used Simple Stories, and I haven't used them before.
I like them. I've bought some of their albums and some of their pocket pages and stuff, but they've been around for a really long time, and they've actually been doing the pocket stuff longer than anybody else, I think.
Yep, they have.
But yeah, because I remember running into them at a CHA, and they were the first company that I talked to about. That was back when I was running around CHA trying to convince every paper company to go digital.
Yes, I remember. You're like our digital. Exactly.
Yeah, I think it was like 2009, 2010. And I talked to them about taking their stuff digital, and they weren't buying into it at the time. They have come around because you can get it digitally now as well. But I remember I thought the way that they were doing the pockets was a great idea.
Yeah. So this one I just used a black and white striped 6x8 and the pockets, and I love them. They're great quality. They're really thick plastic and nice clear plastic, so you can see through them.
Yeah,
really well. So I like them.
And you were talking about how you, when I interrupted you and went down a rabbit hole a little bit, you were talking about how you were doing your family pages and your album and how you figured out what you were going to do where for your Peru album.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so I have like the chronological family albums, so I do one a year as a 12x12, and those I typically just do the 12x12 full prints, and then here and there I'll add maybe even like a Project Life 8x10 page protector for like a drawing or a certificate or something for my kids or schoolwork. I add a bunch of those, and then sometimes in the back I just plop in a bunch of crap of that year that aren't all organized, but just that I may, that I want, that are cute, or, a report card or something. And that's like our family albums. And I have those lined up for every year. And I've been doing that since paper and since literally I was 19 years old, just an album a year. And so with Peru and all these travel journals, I'll still create the travel album, but then I'll add like 2 or 3 pages and add them to that, to a family album, just so things are in chronological order that way. But the travel album's more of a detailed experience. But yeah, I usually do both for those.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Yep.
I love your integration of that. Okay. So
one thing I want to talk about really quick though is for iOS users, and are you guys about 50-50? Do you know?
No, we're definitely more iOS than we are Android.
More iOS. AirDrop is the greatest invention ever.
It is, isn't it?
So with Peru, I took my big camera and used my phone. So when I'm on the bus and it's like an 8-hour bus ride, I'm literally like editing pictures in Lightroom, and then I save them. Like, I don't save them as big, but I resize them and save them onto my desktop on my computer, because when I'm driving on the bus in Peru, I don't have Wi-Fi. I can't upload or anything, but I'm kind of prepping everything and going through and looking at all my pictures and editing them, but I want them kind of all in one place. And when I'm creating something on my phone, again, the Wi-Fi is kind of an issue, but AirDrop, you don't have to have Wi-Fi. You turn on your Wi-Fi and you turn on your Bluetooth, and you can AirDrop from your computer to your phone, from your phone to your computer, and you can just go back and forth and from anywhere and AirDrop to others. So if you're in a big group and for this trip and for other trips that we've taken, I don't want everybody's phone number. I don't want them to have my phone number, and texting's not always the greatest. It uses data too. So you can AirDrop to each other in the bus, and you just turn on that AirDrop. And if you don't know how to do that, you can ask Steph or I, and we can walk you through it. But you just swipe up and do AirDrop everyone, and then you can literally just drop 50 pictures at once onto your phone or onto your computer and toggle things back and forth.
AirDrop is amazing. I totally agree.
I love it.
Yeah.
So I used that a lot too on this last one.
Yeah. What about photos from your kids? Did you include any of those in your albums?
Do you think my kids take photos?
I thought maybe they did. They don't need to, because you take them all, right?
I have boys.
The boys don't take as many.
They just want to play soccer. My 10-year-old actually found his camera that I packed for him last day we left. So he took some, but I haven't even looked at them yet. But that would be a great way to use AirDrop and to integrate too, is if they want to take pictures and include their things in it, or they can make their own travel album. If I had a little daughter, she would be the best travel album maker. But unfortunately, these boys just don't care as much.
Yeah, but see, I have girls too. I have one boy and 2 girls.
Doesn't your daughter scrapbook with you?
My youngest one does. She loves to document, and my oldest one loves to document as well. It's taken her a longer time to get into it, and she's definitely had to try a lot of different things to figure out what works for her best. And what she was using before she went on her mission, she doesn't love anymore. And so now she's back in that trying to figure it out stage.
I think we all go through the transitions of what works for us too.
I agree, yes. And it's the only way to figure it out is trying different things.
Yeah. And it's okay. Whatever works for each of us is great.
Yes.
There's not one solution for everybody, for sure.
Yeah, which is so wonderful that there are so many solutions and options.
And we help so many people every day with their pictures that just do something. Like so many people are just like, it's so overwhelming, I can't even try, and kind of just that's it. They just stop right there, or they don't understand. And even if you find one system that works for you, do that, but just do something.
Yeah, I agree. Because our stories make a difference. They make a difference.
Absolutely. And if you're not telling your own story, someone else is going to, and I don't know if I want that.
Exactly, because you're not in charge of it if somebody else tells it.
Who knows what they'll say. I'll plan my own funeral. Here, use these pictures, and no.
I photoshopped these for you.
I know. I liquefied myself in these. You can only use these. Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly. But photos, statistically, if you have small children, I did once, looking back, and my kids still look back at all of their albums, but looking back at photos really builds confidence in kids. And they look at pictures of themselves, and even if they're not happy times or Disneyland always or something, they know that you love them. They remember those things, and they feel those feelings. The emotions come back, definitely.
Yeah. I read one study where kids that understand their story, the good times and the hard times, they understand that hard things happen and that that's what they've come from, and they're more resilient.
Absolutely. And Steph and I were talking about this earlier with the trials in life, just in general. I'm 42 years old, and I honestly grew up thinking that white picket fences and being a mom was the greatest thing ever, which it is. But my mom was not one to tell much. So I think I was tricked as a child. But yes, the hard times and the good times, it builds strength in these kids. And they need to see what the people before them went through to get where they are today, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So most of your albums, have they been 6x8? You said they've all been 6x8 so far, right?
Yeah. I don't know why I chose that size to begin with, but I have a backpacking trip through British Columbia, the Philippines last year, and Korea, and a New Zealand biking trip, and Cuba was amazing. And most of these places, like Cuba, I went by myself for 2 days. These are just things, that you discover, and even about yourself. You can use your one little word if you're doing that, or something like your New Year's goals. Like New Year's is coming around the corner again for 2018. Yeah. Even you could even do a 6x8 album. It doesn't have to always be travel, but it could be your journey for that year. And think of, what you want to work on that year for personal growth, and document it. And it doesn't have to be cute and fancy and have stickers. It just document it so that you can look back on it and grow from it and see where you've come. I think it's really helpful.
I think so too. Let me ask you this question, and it's a little sideways off of the travel, but we've been talking about this. So if you had advice for somebody that's going through a hard time, like you've talked about, and maybe documenting this stuff right now, or even going back is too difficult for them, what advice do you have for them to be able to still document things that are going on?
Yeah, that's a good one, because I felt like, I love photos, and I love persnickety prints, and I love our customers, and but it was hard going through divorce and then printing family pictures every day, and going through that first Christmas where I didn't even have a Christmas card. And I am printing and designing everybody else's. It was hard. But going through that, and I have pictures. Oh, I wish I could show you right now. Like I would go to Moab and just mountain bike, and I took like a selfie in the back. I slept in the back of my car, and I took a selfie of it and just went, okay, this is how I'm feeling today. And looking back on that now, so many people are like, oh, it'll get better with time. And I'm like, yeah, right. But it does. And I look back and I think, wow, I can't believe I was able to juggle all of those things and still stay strong for my kids, and still be able to function and work hard. One story I have is my mom had leukemia for a long, long time, and finally had a bone marrow transplant 4 years ago. And me being the oldest child, that was my responsibility to take care of her too. So, life's been hard, but she did not like me taking pictures of her. So if you know somebody that's struggling with something, they might not like it. But I took pictures of them shaving her head when she was going through all the chemo. And I took pictures of her in the hospital bed and pictures of her deteriorating and then getting better. And now she's still here with us. And I made a book for her, and she was so mad at me when I was making it or printing or taking those pictures. But I know she appreciates it now, looking back and going, wow. And it's a story that she can leave with her grandkids.
Yeah.
But she wasn't the one that was documenting it. I was documenting it for her. And so I think that's an opportunity that we have as memory keepers or documenters. You know, if you are close to someone that's going through something, you know, you can take it upon yourself to maybe tell their story for them in the best way you know how, and they'll appreciate it later.
That's really good advice. Thank you for that. Did you do something during that time? You mentioned briefly something about one little word during that time. Did you do something document-wise around that, or were you just focusing on it?
Yeah, the year I went through divorce, I did a 6x8 album for my one little word, which was up, to try to just keep looking up. And that was kind of like my little journeys, because I would, when I didn't have my kids, I would, you know, even things around here, I would just go out and do things or think or thoughts or quotes. Like I would screenshot. Sadly, you can actually print screenshots from your phone. Probably like about a 4x4 is about as good as you can get it. And it's probably some copyright issues there, but I would screenshot quotes that really helped me, and I would document those, and I'd put them in my album. And so it just kind of brings back all those emotions. Not that I want to go back to the bad emotions, but I can look at myself now and go, wow, like I'm a completely different person than I was. Not completely, but 2 years ago. Look at how much I've grown personally, and it makes me have confidence and know that I can do hard things. Yeah,
you're stronger. And I'm sure that that's for me, I would imagine that you're looking back. I imagine you looking back and going, I am so strong. Look I'm a survivor. I made it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And my mom does the same with her book, I Made Her. So even though they're hard times and not always Disneyland, it's okay. Like document those things. And, you know, it's kind of like my journal. It really is. I don't really keep a journal, but it's more of my journaling and thoughts and things. You know, I'll write letters to my kids, and that one little word album, I would write kind of my story and be like, I love my kids so much. You know, if my children are reading this, which hopefully they will someday, I write a little letter to them in there as well.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So good stuff.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Chari. I appreciate this is like gold. All of your advice and your tips. I know that it's going to help people. So I'm excited for the listeners to hear everything, all of your advice.
Well, I hope so. We can definitely do more. I mean, we could talk all day long about different things, but
yeah, we need to do this. Not have as long, because it's been almost a year since you were on last. So let's do it sooner again and have you come back and.
Absolutely. Have your readers let us know what they want to learn. If it's like technical photo technical photo things, we can talk about that. If it's if it's about documenting hard things, we can talk about that. And anything that they want to listen to, we can make it valuable and worthwhile.
Yes. So let's put a call to action right here. If you have topics that you would like to hear Chari and I discuss, head over to the comments on modernphotosolutions.com with this episode, and we'll call this episode, should we call it travel or should we call it journal? I kind of like journal better because we're talking about lots of things.
Yeah,
go to modernphotosolutions.com/journal and leave a comment there, or you can email me or leave a message or post a message on social media, on Instagram or Facebook, along with one of these episode posts that one of the images talking about this episode, and let us know what you would like to hear Chari talk about, because she has a lot of depth and width that she can cover with her information and her knowledge and experience. And that's one of the things that is so great about you, Chari, is that you're not only printing stuff out for other people. It's not just a business. You're doing it too. You are in it just like the rest of us.
Absolutely. I understand what everybody's needs are, and we try to do the best we can.
Yes. Thank you so much. So you can find Chari on Instagram and social media at Persnickety Prints, right?
Yep.
And then also persnicketyprints.com if you want to catch up with her. And then, like she said, she's going to have some blog posts coming out. Is that persnicketyprints.com/blog?
It's blog.persnicketyprints.com.
Blog.persnicketyprints.com. Yeah, that makes it easy. Okay. Thank you so much for being here again.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone, for listening.
Yes. And we'll see you next time on Modern Photo Solutions.
Thanks, Steph.